All right, so the astrology of the week of 3 May 2021 to 9 May 2021, it gives us this last sort of burst of Aquarian power from this first cycle of heavy Aquarius energy that we've had in 2021 so far. This is the climax of that because the moon will be moving through Aquarius for the last time while both Jupiter and Saturn are there until later in the year. And then the other thing this week's about, the big theme, is the kickoff of a Gemini season that is set to be extremely potent and extremely interesting because it's an eclipse season with a lot of planets in Gemini, including a full Mercury retrograde in the sign of Gemini this Gemini season. Are the themes. Let's get into the chart here and check out what's going on with the actual aspects. Let's go through a few of these. So, like I said, the big theme is this end of Aquarius season, and a big part of this phase of Aquarius, and by Aquarius season I don't mean the sun in Aquarius. Often we'll say a zodiac sign season. We often refer to that as the sun's movement through that sign. But I'm talking about the larger Aquarius season we've had since that Jupiter-Saturn conjunction on the winter solstice in 2020. It kicked off this copresence with Saturn and Jupiter that's been around since that time, and that will be ending very, very soon. I think 13th of May when Jupiter comes into Pisces. So that would be next weekly astrology. We'll get to celebrate that. I'm excited. But this whole 5 months has been a opening salvo, let's say, and an opening opportunity. I like to think about it positively, of this Aquarian, age. Maybe not the age of Aquarius, but this Aquarian subset of maybe a larger turning of the age of this Aquarian moment we've had with Jupiter and Saturn's conjunction, with the mutable conjunction, or we call it the mutation conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, because from now, last year in 2020 in December until I think it's 2159, I could be wrong about the exact date, but that year we'll have a meeting of Jupiter and Saturn in Scorpio. And so we have these air sign conjunctions of Jupiter and Saturn for the rest of our lives. Most people alive now, I think everybody, unless we get that singularity coming, Ray Kurzweil's big singularity, where we can live forever, right? And we can be plugged into the internet and live forever. I'm skeptical of that, but maybe, try to keep an open mind. But most of us, if the life expectancy that we normally have and have had up to this time that we know about holds true, we're going to experience for the rest of our lives Jupiter and Saturn meeting in these air signs, and it just goes in zodiacal order. So we had the meeting in Aquarius, then it will be in Gemini in 20 years, then in Libra in 20 years, then Aquarius in 20 years, and it just goes through in this triangular clock. And so, but this period, this 5 months, has been a time when Jupiter and Saturn have been together. I don't know if you guys were listening, or gals or folks out there were listening to my channel last year, but I talked about the opportunity. Anytime you have the two great planets, Jupiter and Saturn together, it gives you that stability of Saturn, that ancient feature, that longevity, that power of Saturn, combined with the abundance and expansion of Jupiter, and those sort of merge and mix. And it's how we can bring new change, right? The turning of these ages. Think about the year 2000, you had all the big turning events that happened right around that time, in the world, geopolitically, and then the new age of security that we were in with, the age of terror, so-called. Then that shifted. Now we've had another great turning of age, but it happens also in our nativity. So you can look for the sector of your chart where this Aquarius activation has happened and just reflect. What have you started? What have you begun during this last 5 months? What's kind of fresh and new that might last for a 20-year cycle for you related? Because that's what the Saturn and Jupiter conjunction is. It's an opportunity, like I was saying, to do new things or initiate things of longevity and of power. So that's a long introduction. I definitely wanted to talk about this in this weekly astrology, but let's get back here to why I'm talking about it. Is that we're going to have squares this week. So on Monday, you get the Sun in Taurus, Saturn in Aquarius square. The same day on Monday, you get the Mercury Jupiter square from Mercury in Taurus, Jupiter in Aquarius. So these two planets are are activated in this dynamic fashion here on Monday. Then Wednesday is when we get to kick off the Gemini season. I'll go in a whole discussion of that here in a second. But then Thursday, so Wednesday is the 4th, 5th is Thursday. So I think Saturday the 8th is the final Taurus Aquarius square this week, which is Jupiter in Aquarius and Venus in Taurus. I think that'll be a really nice square to experience, where you'll have the benefics maybe pushing us to enjoy ourselves. And it might be a nice way, I think, to finish this Taurus Aquarius square we've had for the last few weeks. Maybe there's some kind of, in spite of ourselves, in spite of the Saturn dominating things, maybe we'll have a little bit of pleasure here or enjoyment. It is a Saturday. We're heating up here. You know, Taurus season, always think about gardens or parks or outdoors. I'm living in a city, Tirana. Lovely city, by the way. I highly recommend it. There's parks everywhere. I mean, I just go for a walk outside. I can sit with kids playing and parks and children. And I think a lot of the world, I know in the UK, my friends in the UK, shout out to you guys. There's openings happening. So enjoy that if you can get outside and, to the extent you feel safe, and get into these parks and these greenscapes. This Saturday, the 8th, I think will be a nice opportunity for that, with the two benefics in this dynamic exchange via square. So, and that's the one thing I wanted just to say, this theme I was saying earlier, if you can, or if you can enjoy it, you know, I think with the Taurus Aquarius, with Taurus season, and I mean that's this by the sun's passage through Taurus this year, it has been marked by Saturn dominating things earlier in zodiacal order, and this Aquarius seriousness has overseen everything we've been engaged in. And it's been a Taurus season that maybe has required, you know, this special kind of Saturnian fun. I think it takes a unique personality to know what I'm talking about, but seriousness, austere, you know, some people really enjoy that. That's where they get their kicks, right? But for those of us that maybe have had to process that seriousness, you know, it's okay. I mean, this is just part of life, but we can find maybe contained in that those more serious themes, moments of joy and fun and pleasure that we can engage in and you know, and utilize. I just watched a movie, The Hustler. You may have seen this movie from 1961. Paul Newman, Jackie Gleason. I can't think of the other actor's name. There's two other actors that are an actress and an actor that their names are escaping me, but excellent film. But in that movie, it's so dark thematically, so much Saturn, loss, heavy duty themes. But contained in that are these moments of enjoyment and of celebration. And the main female character is a writer, and they're going through this traumatic kind of addictive cycle with her lover, but they fall in love, you know. And so sometimes we have to find these pockets of love and Venus's relationship and touch and connection. You know, and even in the, you know, devastation of this worldly realm, you know, we match eyes with people, and we can enjoy time together and love each other. Even if it's not erotic, it can be just friendly exchange and that kind of agapic love. And that's what I also think about Saturn. It brings a kind of heaviness to the love and to this feeling of pleasure. And I believe, you know, Saturn is that planet that's very divine in a way. It's connected to those highest spheres, those planetary spheres. So it makes me at least think about, how is the pleasure being reflected back up to greater questions about my purpose in life? What's the purpose of this pleasurable moment? You know, what can I use it for? Or how can it kick me into these contemplations that maybe can bring my soul peace or something like this? Again, you can see the serious kind of nature of Saturn during this Taurus season with the square from Aquarius. So I wanted to just say, yeah, I think this weekend, like I said, that Venus Jupiter square maybe is an opportunity to kind of let go of a little bit of that Saturn. You know, they'll be farther away from Saturn here. I'll show you, get my animation up here. So check out the animation. Let's just check out the chart quickly of that 8 May, that square here. You can see, so that's 9 May. Let me go to 8 May. And you can see this perfected square. It's in that anaretic degree of Taurus and Aquarius. So that last degree, they're as far away from Saturn as they can get, even while they're still making a sign-based square. Venus is making a sign-based square from Saturn, and Jupiter's still co-present. But maybe it's kind of like, you know, we're running away from the seriousness, or it's like you get let out of school, you know, and you go to the places where the principal isn't, but you're still maybe on campus. I don't know, these analogies. I'm thinking about my high school days. Boy, I was cutting up a lot. But Okay, so this is what I'm thinking here. We might be able to release a little bit of those serious questions and enjoy some of the final square here, this touch of the benefics, the two benefics. So okay, let's go back. The next thing I wanted to go into was the kickstart of Gemini season. Yeah, that happens on Tuesday. Mercury comes into Gemini. The key thing about it is that we're going to experience a solar eclipse in Gemini on the 10th of June, and then we have a full Mercury retrograde cycle in the sign of Gemini, the sign that Mercury rules. So it's a complex situation because, and I'll talk a lot more about it, but just a few quick thoughts. Mercury retrogrades can be delays, difficulties of all kinds, blockages. But you have the mitigation that Mercury's in the sign that it rules. So maybe these are delays for purpose or for strategy, or delays that are needed. And these eclipses bring accelerated fatedness, my favorite phrase, beginnings, endings, intensities, all while you have this Gemini moment. So the only thing I just want to say here is that, Gemini is going to be heavily active. The sign of Gemini and the nature of Mercury is tricksterism. It's using the trickery of the thinking and of the duplicity and the two-facedness to get things done in the outer world. And duplicity is a complex. That's got a connotation we don't like. But there can be reasons why sometimes we wear masks. Everybody's wearing a mask almost at all times. We're very rarely stripped away of our outer form and just pure soul. Everywhere we go, I get order a tea, I've got a pillow, thank you, I'm polite, I've got my customer mask on, I try to do that well. But this eclipse season, we may be required to wear those masks or figure out the kind of masks we project using our Mercury, and there may be some lessons for that. So that's all I'm going to say about it now. I'll talk a lot more about it over the coming weeks as we get closer to those eclipses. The moon this week is interesting because it's the last Aquarius moon with Jupiter and Saturn there. This is why I was at the beginning of this talk, so heavily focused on the Aquarian moment and this 5 months of initiation since the Jupiter and Saturn conjunction, because the moon will be with Jupiter and Aquarius co-present for the last time until later in the year. And you can go back to the animate page here, just check it out. You can move the moon. I'll move it forward here, and you can just see it's right here. You can see the moon, the 3 planets together. And remember, the moon is an activator. The moon transits the sky and activates things, and it activates aspects between other planets. I see it all the time. And so we always have to watch the moon to see how the moon is, activating these other configurations, like I said. And this is, I think, an opportunity of reflection here. This is Tuesday. We're actually in an Aquarius moon. I don't think we're quite there yet. No, we still have a Capricorn moon at the time of this recording, but we're about to get an Aquarius moon. And, and by the way, before Mercury enters Gemini on Wednesday, we still have the 6 of the 7 traditional planets squaring off in fixed signs. So this intensity and this kind of pressure we felt, I know a lot of people I've talked to have been feeling that the last couple of weeks with the moon coming into these fixed signs and those 5 other planets already in fixed signs. This is a kind of that final boss moment of it. I know my schedule, I was just looking at earlier, it's packed for like today and tomorrow. I'm going to be having to deal with this Aquarius pileup. I could say I'm not looking forward to it. It's just life. I got to endure it and try to take some lessons from it, maybe get better with some planning. But I've got a busy schedule with this pileup. For me, it seems to be a lot about work and creative work. But it's still, tough work. I love work, but, all work and no play makes a dull boy. I think is that the quote from The Shining? But so anyway, just know that this early part of the week can be heavy duty. But once Mercury enters Gemini, the moon still has about 10 degrees or so of Aquarius, and that latter part of the moon's transit, that was my transit of the week. And I'm going to go back to a PPT and show you that. This is the one I have on this page here. The moon is going to be enclosed between Venus and Jupiter, meaning it's separating from Venus, and it will be applying to Jupiter. And this is a lunar mansion. It's a cool lunar mansion because it's the 26th lunar mansion, and the name Al-Farg, Al-Wal, I'm sorry if there's pronunciations there, errors there, but it's the cool thing about this is the lunar mansion that the sun is in every year during Valentine's Day. And it's the one that during Valentine's Day, it's one of those reasons why Valentine's Day has a flavor of love. But if you go to this website, lunarium.com, my favorite lunar mansion website, they quote a bunch of the writers here, but this is their summary. Love and marriage, friendship, health and healing, traveling by land, farming, gardening, and commerce. But Chris Warnock, there's another quote on this page. He's one of my favorite astrologers, by the way, and I consider him a teacher, even though I've never taken classes with him. I've read most of his books and have engaged with his content online. But he says it's the kind of love, it's not the erotic, intense, pleasure, sensuality. It's this serious love. It's what I was speaking to earlier. It's love and pleasure and Taurus contained within the seriousness of Saturn and Aquarius. And this is the square that that I was referring to earlier. This lunar mansion is a perfect embodiment of that idea because it's in Aquarius, most of it. And so it's this divine love. It's the kind of love that requires us to contemplate serious issues, serious questions. This is the love of like a hospice. I say that I've been on the deathbed of a couple of family members, but my grandfather is the one I'll mention here. So beautiful. He was dying and we were all around him. They were actually singing the Ave Maria, a bunch of his children. I came in at the last moment. His wife was there. But it was love. We loved him. He was very loved by his family, died in his 90s. That's the Saturn coming in. And then, so you have this kind of love that is this powerful Saturnian love that this lunar mansion is giving us a chance to access. So think about that. Think about how Saturn can play a role in love. And especially with this Taurus season that was kind of sullied a little bit. Normally we think of Venus as like the grapes and half naked laying around. I love that kind of Venus, but this I think was more about this other kind of Saturnian style of this. And this here will have an opportunity to feel that very well. So maybe call people you love, your parents, friends. Just open your heart up a little bit, maybe. And this is going to be on Tuesday. This enclosure for a few hours here in the evening on Tuesday where I am, and then probably in the morning or midday there in North America if that's where you are. Okay, so that's just to go back here. I wanted to say the other part of the moon's movements this week, it goes to Pisces on Wednesday. That should be it's the last time the moon will be solely in Pisces without Jupiter for a while. So again, the moon is sort of front running here. We're getting ready. I think this midweek Pisces transit, we're going to feel this anticipation and excitement. I threw out a tweet last week about Cancer, the sign of Cancer, really benefiting from Jupiter and Pisces because there's that overcoming trine, and it blew up. And so I can feel people wanting to engage with this Jupiter and Pisces. It's coming, and we can all sort of feel it. Look for midweek. Look to even see how that story might be emerging. And then we've got this Moon-Mars mutual reception to finish the week with the moon coming into Aries. Remember, Mars is in Cancer. So you cardinal sign folks, get ready to use Mars with the moon. It might be uncomfortable depending on some factors in your relationship to Mars and the moon, but this could be body movement, initiation, around the home, getting physical around the home. And I think there's some auspiciousness with this mutual reception later in the week. So one other point I wanted to make here quickly is Gemini, this Mercury in Gemini, this ingress here midweek, just start paying attention because this is really in focus. Often when the planet changes signs, it can give us hints. Your reality might start putting hints in your face. So start paying attention to see how your eclipse season, because it's almost like eclipse season is beginning, even though the sun isn't there yet. That's coming next week. Mercury is there, and Mercury will dominate that Gemini solar eclipse. It's right there next to the sun and the moon. So okay, that's my weekly astrology. Let's pull some tarot cards. Let's get some tarot cards here. And someone was asking me in the comments about why I'm not shuffling anymore. I had those computer problems. I think they're basically solved, but I shifted over to my random number generator just because it's easier with the editing software. And I may get back to drawing some cards by hand with shuffling at some point, but I really like the PPT. I think pulling them this way and dropping the image here in the PPT, it just flows with the PPT. So I'm kind of liking that. But I'm open depending on what folks want or what you guys think. So let's get this first card. All right, we got here, the first card is, and by the way, breathing, I love the breath. It's like we can't see what's coming in. We can feel it, but you can't really see it. And I love filling those lungs up and just even holding it. You know, some of the yoga I studied was very much breath oriented. It's called, I can't think of the name in yoga right now, but Kapalabhati, but there's a name for this breath work in yoga. It's cleaning, using the air, you clean the lungs. And I think for me, when I use air, it can just kind of give me a moment to center. And I love bringing that clean air and that centering when I pull cards right before I pull it, because I think it creates space for the divination to become even more powerful. So, okay, so here we go. The first card is, all right, this is appropriate. This is extremely appropriate. Loss, the loss card. This is Saturn in Aquarius, that middle decan of Aquarius, Saturn in Libra. This card is so cool because you see it in these tarot decks. It's got a heart with 3 swords going through it. This heartbreak, right? Sadness and heartbreak. That's what Saturn actually signifies, by the way, sadness and heartbreak. But everything we've talked about in this video, the seriousness of love, what I was just describing earlier, the Saturnian quality of love, this kind of longevity and divine feature, the way that love can invite us into these other questions about the soul and the nature of life. Think about your love affairs in your life, your erotic love and your romantic love. They're usually burst into an intensity, but then they quickly come into something else. And heartbreak is the great opportunity, in my experience, to heal and to have things opened up to really love ourselves. In my experience with heartbreak, it's an opportunity for self-love and for acknowledging that you are valuable, I'm valuable, no matter what. We have this sort of divine inherent value. And in the wake of the beauty of a love affair or of romance, it's almost like what's left is that jewel of self. And that's what I love about this card. And Saturn, remember, is exalted in Libra. So there's this power, this great power and loss. And as this moon comes and is bona fide, these are the kind of contemplations, the seriousness of self and how this jewel of our soul that then we can kind of share with other people in this divine agapic style love. That's what I'm interested in, and I love seeing this card because again, it's Saturn, and then what's the domicile ruler of Libra? Venus. And remember, that's this Taurus, Aquarius are also Saturn, Venus energies. So it's really it's working. The cards are working right now. They're confirming themes, and I just love it. I love to see it. Okay, let's get the last card here. This will be from the God deck. Okay, the last card. Wow, that's interesting. Anytime you see the last card, this is the suit of coins, and it is the Knight. So in this deck, I pull the 4 Knights and then the 22 major arcana. We've got the Knight of coins, and this is, anytime you see a knight, I think about moving out from something. It's like the element here is calling. It's mutable, and I think about these as being mutable. You know, the knights are often sent on missions, and they're seeking something. And so, you know, this is again, this element, the coins are the earth element. It's Taurus. Again, Taurus is the earth sign we've been discussing with Venus and this Venus-Jupiter connection. I think when we seek, you know, Jupiter is very much a seeker energy. It's the hope in the ancient texts, but it's truth and wisdom at a higher level. And you know, I'm thinking that what are we seeking? What are you seeking with Venus, with the things you love in your life and the people around you and the things you enjoy? What is that really about for you? And again, I think it kicks into this theme we've been discussing of kind of stripping away maybe more superficial types of pleasure and letting those be an invitation into kind of these larger questions. And Joseph Campbell has this wonderful saying, follow your bliss. And maybe there's something here where maybe what appears to be a surface pleasure, if we can sort of stop and then contemplate, where is this leading me? Maybe we're going to be led here into this summer, this beautiful Jupiterian summer, with this lovely energy of Jupiter there in Pisces. And this card doesn't really relate to Pisces much at all. Jupiter doesn't have even that much going on in earth signs, but I just think these cards are Jupiterian in the sense that it is a mutable inner dynamic. We're shifting, we're changing, and we're seeking. So that's where I was going with it. I mean, other than that, I would just say, finishing off your Taurus season, maybe you can think about where that is leading you. It's leading us collectively into the Gemini eclipse season, but how can we kind of have this one last week of pampering and of pleasure, moments where maybe we can escape Saturn and just enjoy. I wish I had a bathtub in here, I don't, but I would love to just take a bath and just, maybe I'll go get a massage or something. But maybe this last pocket here of the Venus and how we can use the Venus in Taurus, this final moment of it, to get ready for eclipse season. All right, so that's the Taurus, that's the tarot reading. I hope you've enjoyed this reading. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week. And, this idea of serious love, I hope it's not too heavy, but I wish you just a divine love in your life and kind of just a beautiful week. We'll talk soon.